If you've ever lived in Australia, you've probably had a Holden Commodore in your garage at some point in your life. This Australian icon has been around for a very long time, but times are changing and now it's on the brink of extinction. In this day and age, everyone is downsizing to smaller cars to save a few bucks on fuel. But the new VF Commodore aims to change all this by offering loads of technology at a cheaper price than its European rivals. But is it enough to save the Commodore name? Here we have the sportiest model of the VF Commodore range, the 2013 SSV Redline. I've been looking forward to driving this car for a while now because it represents such a huge turning point for Holden in the Australian market. It really is a case of do or die with this car. If you live in the United States, you can pick one of these up with a slightly larger engine and a Chevy badge, and it'll probably be cheaper than the Aussie version too. This car here has the 6-speed manual transmission, but we should probably mention that the Americans will only be getting the automatic. Further up the drivetrain is a 6-litre engine pushing out 270 kilowatts and 530 newton meters of torque. Although this might not sound like a huge amount for such a big engine, it's about what you'd expect from a big, lazy Australian V8. But it's still enough power to have fun with, especially with all the power going through the rear wheels. Holden claimed that the fuel consumption for this big V8 on average is 11.8 litres per 100 kilometres, but we've been averaging about 15.3, although we've been having a bit of fun with it, so 15.3 isn't too bad.
So the Redline package features a few more performance-orientated features, such as FE3 sport suspension and a Brembo brake package which features larger calipers and larger brake discs up the front for greater stopping power. Also standard on the Redline is launch control system, which allows you to do a proper launch without leaving massive 11s along the road, unless that's what you want to do. Another couple of standard features are the sunroof, 19-inch alloys, and a heads-up display. Is really phenomenal for a rear-wheel drive car. The electronic steering is quite light when you're driving around, but you can enter competitive mode by pressing the traction control off button twice, and this steering really does tighten up for that extra feel through the wheels. Because Holden have introduced electronic steering on the VF Commodores, across the whole range, electronic parking is available. So basically, you press a button, it searches for a spot and it will park itself basically. And I tried it last night, managed to get into a park that I thought the car wouldn't fit into, and we got there in the end, and I had to do it again just because it was such a novelty, I guess. I mean, if you can't park, it's a good feature, but if you do park and can park every day, then it's more of a novelty, I guess. But for those people who are afraid of parallel parking, then fear no more, because this car does it for you. Well, the clutch and the gearbox, I mean, it's quite agricultural still. You've got the low friction point further towards the ground, but it's really easy to drive. I mean, the gearbox, it's got the short shift knob, but it's still not cheap. But I mean, it's really easy to drive, just hop in it and go. So the standard audio system on the VF Redline is a 9-speaker Bose premium audio unit. It sounds great, but I think it still lacks a bit of clarity with the bass. But apart from that, it is still a great unit. The interior build quality of the VF Commodore is quite impressive actually. It's definitely a step up from what they have been doing with their cars. It features nice touches such as suede on the dash, embroidered SSV logos. The seats are really supportive, they're great, you know, nice soft leather. So the starting price for the Redline is about 55 grand in Australia. So that's not too bad really when you think about it. It's cheaper than the VE Redline, which is what they've aimed to do with the VF, is actually reduce costing. So it's more affordable for the Australian community. But I think 55 grand for a big V8 with all these features is quite good. And yeah, the build quality, like I was saying, is good, and the price tag is definitely worth it. So the 6-litre V8 really makes this car feel like a muscle car. It's got loads of torque down the lower end, even under 4,000 RPM, but that's about the spot where you will start feeling the pull once it's over 4,000 RPM. So that high torque makes it a breeze to drive around town. You can be in a higher gear for a lower speed and not really have to worry about the engine being under load like you would with a smaller cylinder car, or smaller capacity car, sorry. But yeah, the engine is still quite fun, and it's got that unmissable growl that you get from a V8.
The VF is certainly a benchmark for Australian automotive manufacturing. If this car does end up being the final locally made Commodore, Holden can be proud of their long history in this country and the fact that the Aussie Commodore has gone out with a bang.